Today's upload is on mirror checks. How often should we be checking our mirrors? Often enough that nothing comes to you as a surprise in your mirrors, is the way I tend to phrase it. So if you're surprised by what's going on behind you, you probably haven't been checking your mirrors regularly enough. And when you do check your mirrors, try to move your head so that the cars behind can see that you're checking them. It's a form of communication. Every 7 to 10 seconds is a good timing for your mirror checks. Though if the roads are busier, I would be checking mine more regularly than that. But you shouldn't be checking your mirrors to such an extent that it takes your eye off the road ahead. Some students we see overdoing their mirror checks, and it starts to become a little bit worrisome that they're going to miss something going on in front of them when they could be focusing on what's going on with hazards ahead. So don't let one safety check take away your focus from what's going on in front of you, causing you to become at risk from any other hazards. There are 4 main types of mirror checks. The first is the part of your procedures for any turns or roundabouts, which is mirrors and then signal, lifesaver and position. The second is your regular mirror checks, which should be happening every 7 to 10 seconds in general traffic, or more regularly if it's busy. The third is for any change of speed, whether you're accelerating or decelerating. The fourth type of mirror check is the check that you would be doing whenever you see a hazard ahead. So as soon as you see the hazard ahead, we're checking mirrors to make sure that it's safe to react in the way that you need to or you want to. Mirrors on the approach as I'm expecting the lights to change. And as you're slowing down, keep checking the mirrors occasionally so you can judge whether the cars behind you are slowing down as you anticipate that they should be. And if they're not, then start making an alternative plan. Whilst you're in slow moving traffic, you should also be checking your mirrors, watching for any filtering motorbikes, scooters, cyclists. So the busier it gets, the more mirror checks we do. It's quite common for people, once they've done their CBT and they're progressing through their training, to begin to forget certain elements of their procedures. As we give them instructions, we start to see people missing off the mirrors section of mirror, signal, lifesaver, position for turning left or turning right, or approaching a roundabout, for example. Don't forget to check your mirrors before you start your procedure, because it really does help you to plan for what's going on in front of you. One of my favourite phrases is forward planning is also backwards planning. It's much easier to plan for what's going on in front of you if you already know what's going on behind you. Whereas if you've not been checking your mirrors and you've not noticed a car starting to chase up to the backside of you, potentially looking for that tailgate, something might happen in front of you and you've got very little time to be able to slow down safely if a car is right up your backside or is accelerating towards the back of you. Mirrors, signal, lifesaver and position. Lots of people do mirrors for moving off. Mirrors for moving off are no use to you. Whilst you're stationary, you want to be checking your mirrors so you know what's going on behind you. However, because you can't always be staring in your mirrors, if you're moving off, you should be checking over both shoulders, checking the blind spots for things that you cannot see in the mirror. Mirrors, signal, lifesaver, position. Mirrors, signal, lifesaver, position, making sure that doesn't detract from the fact that the car in front is slowing down. A little lifesaver for the cycle lane there in case somebody was coming up on the left. Brakes, slowing down nice and gently. Are they going to cross? They are going to cross. Shoulders to move off, not just mirrors, because I've been stationary long enough that I couldn't check my mirrors enough to know precisely what was going on next to me, like there might have been a cyclist, one of these electric scooter riders, or a motorised scooter or motorbike. Lifesaver to move out, not mirrors. Remember, any change of position requires a lifesaver. Mirrors tell you what's going on really far down the road behind you. So whilst I'm travelling down this road and I'm already in the nice position that gives me a good safety distance away from the parked cars, it's good to just use my mirrors to see what's coming up the road behind me and how close they're getting. As soon as I see the brake lights in front, it's mirrors again, because it's a hazard that I may need to, and I did need to slow down for. Mirrors in between times, but if I need to move position significantly, it's going to be a lifesaver for what I can't see in the mirrors. So it was mirrors on the approach to needing to change position, but a shoulder check to change position, because we needed to check the blind spot to make sure it was safe to move. And the car behind is less than 2 seconds behind me, which allows me now to plan my stopping distance in front of me with the black car. And if I hadn't been checking my mirrors, I wouldn't be able to keep myself as safe as I can now. Mirrors, signal, lifesaver and position. Once you've completed your turning, cancel your indicator and check your mirrors. You're on a new road, so you want to be able to plan for the safety bubble in front of you and hopefully keeping that safety bubble behind you. As soon as we see the brake lights ahead, we're going to be checking our mirrors. Double check how close the car behind has got since the last time we checked. And do remember that mirror checks help you to gauge the speed of vehicles travelling behind you. If you're travelling on a high speed road, like a national speed limit dual carriageway for example, before you commit to an overtake, check your mirrors more than once. The first check allows you to know what's behind you. The second check allows you to gauge the speed of the vehicle that's behind you. And that allows you to work out whether it's safe to overtake or it's not safe to overtake. Now, a lot of people will only check their mirrors once before they commit to an overtake on multi-lane carriageways. If you only check once, you know there's a vehicle there but you don't know how fast it's going. If you check twice, you can gauge how much ground it's covered since the first check, which allows you to have an idea of how fast that vehicle's going and whether it's going to be safe to move out or not to move out. As soon as we see the hazard, which is the car reversing out or poking out, we check mirrors. And it's surprising how early I check my mirrors that I notice that the cars behind haven't even begun to see the hazards that I can see ahead of me. And it makes you realise how far ahead, or how not so far ahead, the cars behind are actually planning up the road. That's another really good reason to make your mirror checks obvious, because through an early mirror check you're letting the car behind know that you have seen them and that you may need to do something. Has the car behind you seen the hazard ahead? Or does your mirror check show them that you've seen a hazard? It's the first sign of you giving information to the car behind that there's a problem in front of you which you may need to slow down for. Preparing for bends. Mirrors before the bend and after the bend. Not usually in a bend, unless you absolutely feel you need to, in which case usually it's the mirror of the bend. So you usually look in your left mirror if you're going around a left bend, or your right mirror if you're going around a right bend, because you'll actually see behind you. Otherwise the other one's facing the sky a little bit. Can't usually see much other than your arm or the other side of the road. Mirrors before the bend, so that now I can lift my head up and focus on the bend. If I want to check it in the bend, I'm going to check my left mirror, because that was a nice wide sweeping left bend, and my left mirror gave me a really good view in the bend. Some people ask whether they should be checking both mirrors every single time. The answer is no, you don't have to check both mirrors every single time, but it's advisable to try and check both mirrors if it's safe to do so. If there's a lot going on and it's not going to be very safe for you to take the time to check both mirrors, then just check the one that's most important to you at that moment in time. Nice, just relax your arms though when your bike's weaving when you're looking in your mirrors. It's just because you're a bit tense.